The world has a strange way of judging people. Some wear expensive suits and hide empty hearts. Others wear torn clothes, but carry the greatest kindness. This is the story of a homeless man who had nothing except the courage to save a little girl. And that single decision changed his life forever. Every morning, David woke up on the same old park bench in New York City. His blanket was thin. His backpack contained only a few clothes and a photograph of his late wife. Years earlier, David had owned a small construction company. He had a house, a family, a future, but after his wife died from a serious illness, everything fell apart. Medical bills swallowed his savings. His business collapsed. Friends disappeared. And eventually, he lost his home. Yet despite everything, David never lost his kindness. Every morning, he helped elderly people cross the street. He returned lost wallets. He shared his food, even when he barely had enough for himself. People walked past him every day. Most never looked into his eyes. To them, he was invisible. One rainy afternoon, David sat outside a busy shopping center. Cars rushed by. People hurried through the rain. Suddenly, he heard a little girl scream, "Daddy!" David looked up. A young girl, about 7 years old, had run into the street while chasing her balloon. A speeding black SUV was racing toward her. People froze. No one moved. Without thinking, David sprinted forward. He grabbed the little girl and threw both of them onto the pavement. The SUV slammed on its brakes, only inches away. For a moment, everything went silent. The little girl was safe. David's arm, however, was badly injured. A man in an expensive suit came running. His face was filled with panic. "Emily!" he shouted. The little girl hugged him tightly. "Daddy! He saved me." The businessman looked at David. Rain poured down. David's clothes were soaked. Blood trickled from his arm. Without hesitation, the man called an ambulance. At the hospital, David tried to leave quietly. "I'm fine," he said. "I don't need anything." The businessman stopped him. "My name is Richard Carter. I own Carter Global Industries." David simply smiled. "That's nice." Richard looked confused. Most people reacted with excitement when they heard his name. David didn't. Because he hadn't saved Emily for money. He saved her because it was the right thing to do. Over the next few days, Richard couldn't stop thinking about David. Why would someone who had absolutely nothing risk his own life for a complete stranger? He hired a private investigator, not to judge David, but to understand him. The report shocked him. David wasn't a criminal. He wasn't an addict. He wasn't lazy. He had simply been unlucky. He had lost everything trying to save his wife. Richard sat quietly. Then he made a decision. A week later, David received an unexpected invitation. He walked into Carter Global's headquarters. Employees stared. Some whispered, "What is a homeless man doing here?" David ignored them. He entered Richard's office. Richard stood up. "You saved the most important person in my life. I can never repay that." David smiled. "You don't owe me anything." Richard shook his head. "I disagree." Then he placed a folder on the desk. Inside was a job offer. Facilities manager. A company apartment. Health insurance. And a salary David had never imagined earning again. David looked at the papers. His hands trembled. "I don't want charity." Richard smiled. "This isn't charity. It's opportunity. You earned it." David accepted. But not everyone welcomed him. Some executives laughed behind his back. "A homeless man working here. He'll never fit in." David stayed silent. He arrived first every morning, left last every evening. He treated every employee with respect. Security guards, cleaners, receptionists, everyone. Months passed. Richard noticed something remarkable. Employees trusted David. Productivity improved. Workplace complaints dropped. One simple reason. People finally felt respected. One afternoon, Richard called a board meeting. Everyone expected another business announcement. Instead, Richard stood before the room. I've spent years hiring people based on impressive resumes. But the best decision I'd ever made was trusting a man who had nothing except character. He turned toward David. The room fell silent. I'd like everyone to welcome our new director of community development. The room erupted in applause. Even those who had mocked David stood to clap. Later that evening, David visited the same park bench where he had once slept. He placed fresh blankets, food, and care packages for people still living there. One homeless man asked, "Why are you helping us?" David smiled. "Because I know exactly how it feels when the world forgets you." Months later, Carter Global launched a program helping homeless people find jobs, housing, and training. Thousands of lives changed. Not because of a business strategy, but because one homeless man chose kindness instead of bitterness. The greatest wealth isn't measured by the money in your bank account. It's measured by the lives you change. David lost everything, but he never lost his heart. And in the end, that became the reason he gained everything back. Sometimes, the person everyone overlooks becomes the hero no one expected. And sometimes, one act of kindness is all it takes to change a life forever.